This is a production of PBS Charlotte.
The following episode of Charlotte, a City of International Success, is brought to you by Central Piedmont Community College and viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Dr. Maha Gingrich. Coming up next on Charlotte, a City of International Success, I will interview Violeta Moser. We're going to talk about the importance of education and its direct impact on economic development. Stay with us. Welcome to Charlotte, a City of International Success. I'm Dr. Maha Gingrich. Today, our guest is Violeta Moser, Executive Director of LAVA. Welcome to our show.
Thank you, Maha.
You know, I have seen you around in the community many times, and a special thank you for serving on CPCC's Board of Trustees. We really appreciate what you're doing for us.
It's been an honor.
Yeah, thank you. And just to start the conversation, originally you're from?
Peru.
Peru, okay.
Yes.
What part of Peru were you from?
I was born in Lima, Peru.
Lima, is that the capital?
That is the capital of Peru, yes.
So is it a big city?
It's a city of 12 million people right now.
Oh.
When I was born, it was probably about 6 million, but so the population has doubled in the 40 plus years that I lived there.
Here. Yeah, well, that makes sense. That makes sense. You know, most of the cities, there's so much growth. And do you come, this has become one of my favorite questions. Do you come from a big family or a small family?
My immediate family is 2 brothers and I. I'm the youngest of the 3, which is small for a Peruvian family.
Right.
But as you know, in many countries all over the world, families are extended families. So I have many aunts, many cousins. I couldn't even tell you how many cousins I have, probably 50. And by then now I have children, and those become my nieces and nephews. So if you ask me that question, I would say, yes, my family is huge.
Well, that is true. That's why I think I started asking that question, because some of the people I know, they're like 10, 11, 12 kids. And I have so much appreciation, you know, for the mothers and fathers who actually, you know, take care of those children. So, so obviously then you went to school there, right?
I went to school there. The first 19 years of my life I spent, I think, just going to school all the time.
Yeah.
My main role, my father used to say, is your school and your education. So I began living right in the middle of the city. I was born in this wonderful city that has a lot of colonial influence.
Oh.
It's a very diverse. So not only the smells, but the looks of the people and the diversity, it's amazing. But of course, as a child, you don't realize all that. I began my schooling in a Catholic school, like most people do. You know, Peru is almost, at that time, probably 95% Catholic, Roman Catholic.
Oh.
So that's how I began with my faith that was inculcated by my parents and my cousins and my godmothers, godparents. So I went to school right around the corner from where I lived.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes.
Did you walk to school?
I used to walk with school with my neighbor friends and a lot of people. Now, schools, as nice as it may sound, they are very competitive. When I was going to school, you had to be accepted, even in the public education, it has changed. But back then, in order to be able to go to the school that had some prestige because of their academics, you have to have a spot. So as growing up, for me, it was constant competition to show your academic level, which is surprising because I don't find that in here. For us kids growing up, that was our primary goal, to try to be better.
Do you stay all the way from like kindergarten to your 10th grade or whatever in the same school?
Most people around the time I grew up, yes. We begin with a group of students. In my class, believe it or not, we were 32 girls. I went to an all-girls school. And we stayed from kindergarten all the way to high school and graduated together. So they became my extended family, my sisters. So I still see them. I go back after 44 years. Yeah. And I meet with them, and it's like old times.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? You know, to have that kind of relationship. And I think that's why even here, most of the time, people are encouraging, saying, try to have a school system where the kids are going from the same school, you know, they stay together, because it becomes a bond. And it also becomes a mutual support and encouragement for each other to be successful. You know, when you have that net of friends, you know, tight knit, you know, friendships, it makes a lot of difference in the success.
That is the support system that you have.
Yeah.
You begin to form this relationship since you are young. Parents encourage that. Yeah. The influence of parents in the schools is limited. However, you know, the schools become the authority. Mm-hmm. So as soon as you enter the school door, basically your parents' responsibility as far as your education is concerned is handed over to schools.
Actually, I do like that.
Yes, yes. But it's a little bit different. As you know, in the US, we expect parent involvement in a different way. So for me, that was a discovery, how much is expected for parent involvement inside the schools versus the way that we saw in my culture, the handing over the responsibility of education really to the school.
Now, when we were talking before, you said you went to all girls high school and school, but you had a uniform? Were you?
Yes.
Is that?
We had, as part of our formation, there's a lot of discipline that we come from. Influenced not only by our Catholic faith, that you had to pray every morning just before you went to the classroom. We form in lines and we pray. We all had to wear uniforms, and in order to be able to demonstrate this competitiveness that I was talking about in terms of academics, we used to have to perform certain grades in order to be able to get a distinction, pretty much influenced by the military system. So the girls, that one girl in your class that did the best usually wore this cord around her arm, representing that she was number one in the class. Wow. So all these girls wanted to be number one in the class. The red one meant, and that's the one that I had for the most part, the one second in the class. So the competition created among girls was academically was constantly there, but the bonding that was formed supported all that. Even though we were competing for obtaining best grades, we became really, really lifelong friends.
It's a healthy competition.
It is
healthy.
It's a healthy competition.
Yeah. And then I like, actually, they wear their achievements with pride. They're required to wear that throughout the school then.
Absolutely, and that influenced also others like me that wanted that gold cord.
Yes.
That I was always competing for with one of the closest friends that I have, and we still talk about it when we see each other. I go visit and she's there. You never got it.
Yeah, but you tried.
I tried.
That's what matters.
Speaking about discipline also, our hairs needed to be groomed in certain ways. For instance, we couldn't have this length of hair. This is why I love having long hair. Our nails could not have polish. We could not have makeup on. And the length of our skirts and how our uniform was placed was rather important. We used to have to be inspected as to how your uniform was kept. If you forgot your hat, we used to wear hats.
Oh, neat.
You had to go back home, or you'd be detained for an hour, 2 hours, and then your parents will get a note saying that she forgot her hat or forgot something that is part of the uniform. Gloves, we had white gloves for special occasions, brown gloves for every day.
I think all that learning, because you have learned not only education, to have a healthy competition, and then build a lot of bonds and become best friends, supporting, learning to build a supportive community with your own age group. And I think all these things are so essential for people to establish themselves, because you carry that with you throughout your life. So how did you come to the US?
It was around 1968 when we had the military coup. I was still in school. And my beautiful city, Lima, that I adored, was greatly influenced by, because I was a capital where all the activities, political life, economic life, it all develops in the city, in the capital, was influenced by this presence of a strong military regime that deposed the democratically elected president back then. So, as you know, universities and school, as in some places around the world, influenced a lot the changes that happen at the society. So it was my last year of high school. I was entering college, and we began to see the demonstrations on the streets and the control of the government, freedom of speech, freedom of, not religion, freedom of speech and freedom of the press, curfews. We had to be at home by 7, 8 o'clock at night.
Oh, wow.
Influenced how we attended schools. There were times that schools were closed. There were times that there was, on the streets, limited food availability, the basics, meats, flour, bread, to make bread.
They would ration the
the portions. There was a lot of socialism influence in that government. So one day my cousin came from the US on her vacation, and I told her how disappointed I was and how bored I was staying at home, because I always was going to school. So she asked me to come with her. I said, why don't you come with me? And you know, you will love it out there. The schools are great, and you will learn and practice your English at the same time. And then maybe you can come back and make a decision. And by then, of course, I was thinking, I was a little bit older. I was 19 years old then. I needed to be doing something related to my education. So I came with her one summer. It was August 3rd when I landed in what I thought was New York City.
The date.
I remember it very clearly. And I thought I was in New York City, or the school was in New York City, but it was in New Jersey. So that's how my life began in the US.
What degree did you pursue when you came here then?
When I came here, I wanted to be an educator. I wanted to take the shortest route to becoming English proficient, so that maybe I could go back to Peru and teach school while I was trying to obtain my higher degree. I wanted to become a lawyer eventually. I wanted to be a diplomat. I wanted to be all these wonderful things. But so I arrived here in the 70s, mid-70s, and began attending school.
So, did you become a lawyer?
I never
English?
did.
English teacher? What did you do?
As I was figuring out what I wanted to do, again, the diversity also of this country with this amazing dean of the school that I was attending at Montclair advised me that if you're going to go back and maybe you want to open your institute to teach languages, I think you ought to take some business administration courses so that you know how to run a business.
Oh, that's smart advice.
And I said, but I didn't have any funds. My parents were never rich, but they were able to support me here for only the 6 months that I was supposed to stay.
Wow.
So he said, don't worry, we'll renew your visa and we'll get some money for you. So that's how I remained for another, what I thought would be years, studying business administration at Montclair with a scholarship funded by this amazing person that I met that influenced my life.
That is absolutely wonderful. You know, people don't think about the mentors. You know, they are there in your face sometimes. We just have to accept and recognize that. And sometimes people will just give you a small advice that could change your entire life. And if we are open to that. So after that, what did you do? Did you finish your business degree?
I absolutely completed that, thinking that I was going to, again, create this amazing new life for me when I went back to my home country.
Yeah.
When I met my husband, the one that is my husband for 40 years now.
Oh, congratulations.
So, yes, thank you, thank you.
What is his name?
It's Robert.
Robert.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
wow. So you met him there?
I met him actually not at the school. I was by then working part-time at this pharmaceutical company. And Robert was there, so we met. You know, it was one of those things that he was very friendly, and he started telling me a little bit more about the American culture.
Oh,
and so
nice.
That's how we got together, and 2 years later we were married. And I never went back to Peru to use my business degree.
Well, in some ways we are happy you're here, you know. So I'm sure, you know, with that, did you work in different industries then at that point in time?
As I began my career again, I wanted to be a business person, professional woman, and I started working as a management trainee in the banking industry.
Oh,
By then, we had moved to Connecticut.
Okay.
With our, I became pregnant when I was in Connecticut.
Oh, so you have what? One?
We have one daughter. One daughter. Her name is Stephanie. She's now, of course, grown and married.
Oh, congratulations again. My gosh. How did you end up in Charlotte?
Through different employment for my husband in the pharmaceutical industry. As you know, New Jersey is a strong base for research, but most of the manufacturing of pharmaceuticals were occurring here in the South. So with that, we ended up in Rocky Mount, our first time in North Carolina, with Abbott Labs, I believe. And then we went back up north again, and then came back with another pharmaceutical company.
So when did you come to Charlotte?
Once again, another move from Greenville, North Carolina, this time into Charlotte because of my husband.
Okay.
Made me more interested in pursuing something beyond banking, but at the same time, I needed a job when I came here. So my boss, my former boss in Greenville, North Carolina, created a position for me at Barclays when I first arrived here.
Oh, how nice is that?
So that was very nice. I worked there for a while, and that was also my introduction into a larger city with more diversity than the eastern part of North Carolina.
So when did you come again to Charlotte?
I arrived in 1992 to Charlotte.
1992? You've been here for a long time.
Yes.
Oh, wow. So you said that International House has done a welcome wagon for you, but is that when you actually started seeing again your community here, or how was that experience for you?
For the first years of my life as a mother, I was a little bit disconnected with my Hispanic community.
Sure.
Arriving to Charlotte, there was this woman from the Welcome Wagon Club that usually welcomed people, or maybe, I don't know if they do it anymore, but they welcome families that come into town. So she appeared with this beautiful basket, and inside there was a card from the Latin American Women's Association welcoming me to this city. So then I began connecting with the Latin American Women's Association, and it has been an amazing transformation of that led me into where I am now.
Oh, wow. So now I do know that you have served on many boards. You know, you have served even as the chairs. What are some of those organizations? You said Latin Coalition?
The Latin American Coalition.
Latin American Coalition.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Again, as I arrived to Charlotte with this welcoming and discovering of the Latin American community, I began to use my Spanish a little bit more, and there were greater opportunities for volunteer. Mm-hmm. So I began volunteering at these different boards and committees, and eventually I became president of the Latin American Coalitions Board, where I began to understand the challenges of the Latino community.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is, especially I think during that time is where most of the major changes started happening in our Charlotte community.
Right.
You know, about late 1990s. So tell me now about, you know, it was Latin American Women's Association. Mm-hmm. And then now the title has changed?
Yes. So The Latin American Women's Association has now become Latin Americans Working for Achievement. We kept the same acronym so that people
smart.
will recognize us.
Yeah.
It took us a little while to figure that out.
I bet it's hard.
But the core of the Latin American Women's Association was always scholarships for higher education for the Latino students, Latino Hispanic students. So when I became more involved as years were going by, I realized that something was pulling me away from what I thought would be my business world.
Yeah.
So my role at the Latin American Women's Association became much more strong and focused on education.
On education?
Yes.
So you did do education?
Yes.
Because isn't that what you wanted to do originally?
I ended up doing that, Maha, you would not believe. Through different changes in careers, I left the bank for an opportunity to travel in Latin America doing training, cultural training, and doing a lot of also technical training on the textile industry.
Oh, wow.
That was a lot of traveling. My daughter was in high school then. So I found myself away from home for periods of time, and that wasn't all that great for me as a family person. So I decided to come back home and join a small business doing market research for the Hispanic Latino markets. So as I was doing that, I was finding a little bit more time and flexibility with my schedule to serve more at the Latin American Women's Association. And then in that path, I discovered that the needs of the Latino community here in Charlotte had changed dramatically. I'm referring to now the first decade of the 2000s, 2010.
Yeah.
When I arrived, there were only 6,000 Latinos living in Charlotte. By then, the population had exploded to be an estimated 70 to 100,000 families living here.
That's huge.
Or students, or people living here, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So the schools, the public school system became overwhelmed by so many students that were coming with not quite well prepared because at home they speak Spanish and their vocabulary was not strong enough to set that base that is so much needed in education. So the Latin American Women's Association expanded its programs to include tutoring for those students who have deficiencies in learning vocabulary or increasing their vocabulary to be able to compete with the other peers in their schools. So around that time, also in 2008, as you know, the economy took a downturn.
Right.
So that small firm where I was partner doing Hispanic market research had to take a step back. So that gave me the opportunity to stay more at home.
And you became the executive director.
And around that time, the offer was made to.
So tell me about why is it important to have this education structure? You know, not only giving scholarships, but you said the parents are involved. And then, so tell me a little bit about why this is so important for our community.
Again, as the growth of the Latino population is so significant right now, the public school system is at least 24% Latino children. Many of them have challenges that, again, are in the language acquisition when they're a young age. So in order to be able to make our city continue to be as competitive, to create labor forces that are well prepared, we need well prepared students with a solid base. So of education. So the Latin American Women's Association, Latin Americans Working for Achievement right now, focuses on that, beginning with tutoring in elementary school all the way to college. So we provide scholarships for them as an incentive to do better from the very beginning.
So you try to get grants, you try to get donations, and then have scholarships for the kids from the kindergarten, you said,
yes.
From school. And then once they high school level, then also encourage them to go to college, and then you provide scholarships for
Absolutely.
the chosen students.
All that a nonprofit does is grant writing and sponsorship opportunities. But in addition to that, we do parent involvement, very critical for, again, getting parents to understand the school system that is not like the place I came from where parents stay at the door. In the case of the school system in the US, parent involvement is very critical
Yes.
for the success of children from very young age.
You're 100% right. And basically, an organization like this, you're not only focusing on the success of the kids to understand the American system, understand the American education, and as they're here to be successful in what they're doing and really contribute to the economic development of our region, along with parents' involvement, parents' education, parents' commitment, so that they work as a group to make it all happen. And so I think it is such an important organization, and thank you so much for sharing what they do here.
Well, yes, it's been, again, our influence as immigrants and our experiences have contributed to understand a little bit better how to reach out to the families for the success of our city as a whole. So for me, it has been a long way around. I began with my passion for education when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I arrived to this country thinking that I was going to be in the business world as I entered my career.
Yes.
And here I am back doing
Come in a
programs in
beautiful
education.
circle, beautiful
Yes.
circle. Well, it's been wonderful chatting with you, and thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you, Maha, for this opportunity.
My pleasure, my pleasure. And thank you for watching Charlotte, a city of international success. I'm Dr. Maha Gingrich. Please join us again next time, right here on WTVI, PBS Charlotte.
A production of PBS Charlotte.